Howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome back, guys. We're just kicking this off here. I'm making sure that we are live. I'm getting some tweets out, pulling up the charts. But yeah, we'll jump into this here in a bit, just as soon as we get all of this going here. Let me see here. Did we get it tweeted out on this page? Yes, we did. I'm going to send this to a couple of chat groups. Send me a chat. Boom, boom, boom. Perfect. Cool. All right. Well, seems to be live. Seems like there's some folks jumping in already. You guys are coming in. Let me know if you're jumping in, by the way. Drop a comment in the chat. Let me know you're jumping in here and that you're watching. And we'll get right into it. Back with another one of these Tuesday live crypto market analysis sessions here on Wolf Bitcoin, which is part of the Wolf Financial umbrella. And then this show specifically is sponsored by Ostium. So make sure to give Ostium a follow down below this stream on X. I did leave a link so you can go check out Ostium if you want to. Right now, very, very popular. You know, everyone's looking to trade on chain. If you want access to commodities, stocks, indices, Forex, all of that good stuff, it's on Ostium. It's on Ostium, and it's very easy, very smooth to use it. So what's up? We got Bainesy. I need to do hard stuff, not to be hard. We got Enrique here. What's up, man? Welcome. What's up, guys? Thanks for letting me know you're here. Appreciate that. Lets me know who I'm hanging with, who I'm talking to. So come on in, guys. Come on in. And let's see if let's see if we can find something cool to look at on these charts. We got FOMC tomorrow. We got a new moon tomorrow for my astrology trading friends. BTC's been moving up into this very interesting area here. So we're right in the middle of it. We can break that down a little bit. I put out a video probably a day ago, maybe 2 days ago. It was a little short video clipped from one of the spaces we did. I believe it was like Sunday's space, maybe Saturday or something. But we'll talk about some of that. We'll pull up those charts. We'll talk about that high time frame Bitcoin level that I'm looking at, why I'm looking to that level, why I think it's important to look at that level. So we'll look at that. We'll talk about that. We can look at some of these alts. I know Ethereum's been moving a little bit. We can talk about ETH BTC, why I shared this, why I think this move down here could potentially be coming if we don't get a bounce in here, right? That'll be interesting here because there is a potential that it's trying to get a bounce in here, but ultimately there could be a move lower for ETH BTC. So we could look at that. We can look at some of these majors, LTC, Solana, Cardano, some of these that we've talked about over the last few weeks. So we can definitely dive into some of these. And we can also look at some more degen-y stuff. You know, we can look at some of these like altcoin plays that could move quite interestingly, and we'll see where it lands us. But I think we should probably spend most of our time just really breaking down BTC. There's a lot going on with BTC, so yeah, let's get ready to kind of break this down. Then we'll break it down. We'll look at some stuff. Let me switch up this. These beats aren't bad. They're just they got me vibing, got me chilling. I need to throw more music on here though, because you have to you gotta upload these tracks. Let's see if maybe there's something a little more chill that we can put on here. We'll throw that on, whatever this is, and we'll kind of let it just go on in the background for a little bit. If not, we'll go back to that initial one. But it's really just to kind of cover the empty space between when I'm saying something and when I'm not, right? But But let's jump into it here. I'm going to switch to full screen. There we go. Cool. And I may even... Am I able to scoot this over anymore? Probably not. What does this do? No. What does that do? Yeah, we'll go with that for a little bit. We'll roll with this. Does that give you more screen space? Yeah, it's about the same. All right, cool. We'll roll with that. Let's zoom out on BTC. First off, let's zoom out on BTC. I'm gonna hide here. Let me get rid of some of this low time frame stuff real quick. Let's go out to like a monthly view here. Let me actually hide everything. So let's start here. So far this month is off of the lows very nicely, right? It's not quite walking back the entire previous month, but quite a bit of it. I'd say at this point you're looking at maybe, I don't know, what is that, like 70% of that last candle? We've kind of walked it back a little bit, but you can see right here, even on this naked chart, you can see the importance of this horizontal level that BTC is back at right here. So had this touchdown back in April of last year, and then we had this touch point here as well back in March of the year before that, of 2024. So 24, 25, even a little bit of a touch here, beginning of 26. We are back at that level. So this is a very interesting horizontal level here for BTC. What happens at or near this level could be quite telling in terms of whether we see a dump to significantly lower, or if overall this is starting to flip momentum and try and maybe reverse some of this downside here. So we'll look at some of that. Let's go to the quarterly chart. This 80,600 level, the reason I've been sharing that is because it is based on this previous quarter's low. So this was last quarter. This was Q4 of 2025. This is Q1 of 2026, this current quarter. So there's 14 days left in this quarter. And if by some chance in the next 14 days, we are able to close this quarter, which would be closing this month, we were to do that within the previous quarter's range, right? So within the high and the low of that previous quarter, that starts to signal that the market is ready to accept price for Bitcoin. In this case, Bitcoin, but this could really go for any asset, but it's ready to accept price back within that range instead of establishing a new range below. So that would be quite interesting there to see how that plays out. So yeah, we'll dive into a little bit more. We'll break some of that down. What's up, Amp? We got Amp in the house. What's up? Appreciate you. We got Ash. What's up, brother? Appreciate you jumping on here. Quick reminder, as usual, everything that I'm going to share is just my opinion, guys. It's just my personal opinion. What's up, Crypto Boss? Just my opinion. It's just my take. It's just my view. I'm not giving any kind of advice. I'm not suggesting you do anything with my personal opinion and how I'm moving in the market myself. I'm just simply sharing that here and streaming it for a bit of education and entertainment, but nothing more. So not intended to be any kind of financial advice or recommendation. You guys click your own clicks, But so that's where I'm kind of looking at here for BTC on the high time frame. So for me, that's a pretty key area that I'm really paying attention to is how are we doing? Let me clean up some of this stuff here, because some of that level down here, we'll come back and we'll talk about this one here in a little bit, this 30, 38, 39K, because that is an interesting level. Let me hide some of this stuff, though. This stuff right now is not really all that relevant. So I'm going to hide this one as well. There we go. I'll leave this horizontal zone here just because this is that big key level, right? It's previous year low, 2024 March high. So Q1 high of 2024, it was the low of 2025, and we're trying to close above that level, which I think is good. I think this is good. You want to see this, try and hold this, but really the big level for me is going to be that previous quarter low. So looking over here, I'm going to put a quick little line on there, but the low of that previous quarter is interesting to me. And then I'm going to go ahead and mark out as well, probably the high of this current right here, this current move here. So the high of this current quarter, I'm going to mark that out as well. And essentially what I'm seeing and what I'm thinking here is, again, if we can close this quarter in these next 14 days, if we can get above 80,600, I think there's a decent shot that the next quarter that's going to open up, even if it has a little bit of initial downside, like even if on open it comes back down here to this 70, 74 area, even if it were to come down there, even if it came a little bit below it, into the 60s, I think ultimately there's a really good chance that it's going to want to sweep this quarter's high here. Right? I think there's a fairly good chance, and that's at 98K. And I think there's even a potential that it may want to come up here to the high of that quarter. So we'll see. But again, the condition for that, my requirement for that, is that we need to close above the low of the previous quarter. So got a little bit of work to do. We're close, but we definitely got some work to do. So let's see if it can achieve that. Let's zoom in a little bit and see what that might look like. Here, I'm going to clean this up a little bit. So that's that previous quarter low. We'll clean it up a little bit more as we kind of move in. Okay. So it would essentially be a 8.5%, maybe 9% move off of current levels, right? If we drop down a little bit, then that gap increases, right? But right now there's an opportunity. I think the risk currently is, by that same logic of closing within a previous range, if we close this week in the next 5 days below these previous highs over here, right? So below 73.9, below same, about 74K. So the risk is, if in the next 5 days, if we close back below 74K, we could be accepting back into this trading range below, which is essentially where we've been just trading sideways. This, right? So if we get a weekly close in the next 5 days below 74K, let's just call it 74, chances are price wants to continue trading down here somewhere, right? And that can go on for a little bit longer. There's even a chance, again, like this is just by that same logic of how price finds acceptance inside of these ranges. There's also a chance that by that same logic, if we're saying that a reclaim of prior quarter could lend to a move to the top of the previous quarter, the same thing here. I think if we close back inside the previous week, it does increase the chances that price could go to the bottom of that range again, which would be the bottom of this previous weekly candle as well. So we could see a move down here into the mid to low 60s. Again, doesn't necessarily mean we have to break to the downside, but we certainly could see a move. So I think this is the risk. This is a very, very, very key week, in my opinion. The next 2 weeks are going to be very, very important because we've only got 2 weeks left on the monthly close, which means there's only 2 weeks left on the quarterly close. We've got 2 weeks to get above 80,600 if we want to see the potential for a move higher, at least to move into the 90s. I think we need to do that in the next 2 weeks. If we don't get that, it's my suspicion, right? If we don't get that, it's my suspicion that this move to the upside will be exhausted. And I think what comes next is a move to the bottom of this previous month, which is going to be that 60K low. So kind of running out of time. We'll see how that goes. Yo, what's up? Got Rupert. So that's essentially what I'm watching here on BTC. Just to keep it simple, is I really am watching that weekly close and the monthly close, which is also the quarterly close for BTC. It's got time. It's got time. And then look, if it can do that, if it can do that, I think it opens up quite a bit of potential to the upside. I think it could be a very interesting. I mean, look what happened here essentially, right? You had these big moves up. This one, if we get a similar type of close here within the previous one, could I'm not saying it's going to be necessarily a move to the all-time high, but definitely could be a move up, at least somewhere into this previous range. Would be very, very interesting. Definitely is a little bit counter sentiment, I think, at the moment. I think most people are probably looking to the downside, but again, algos are such a finicky thing and they're very tricky. I think we are in a no place for upside. In my opinion, this is a deviation outside of the 60-70. Yeah, I that is still my primary. That is still 100% my primary. My primary case right now at the moment is still that this is just trapping some liquidity and that we are looking for a move back into the range, right? But I do have to outline and highlight that a move above 80,600 starts to make me have to consider another scenario, which could be that we could be moving up here, right? But it all goes back to a reclaim of this level here, right? That was that move there. So that's just how liquidity tends to move. Look, you can see it on the daily chart on BTC. I'll give you a couple good examples of where it's done a similar type of move. Example number one, right? You've got the top of that candle. You've got the bottom of that candle there, right? This candle right here, okay? The next one closed within that range. Notice it wicks below it, right? It wicks below it, but ultimately closes inside of it. Where's the draw? Price moves back to the top of that first candle, right? Did it again here, right? Oops, I drew that one wrong. Here and here. So you had a candle that came down, closes. This one closes within previous daily candle. Then it moves back to the top of that previous daily candle, right? Did it again here. Let me clean this up. Did it again here. You've got top, bottom, right? This is your first candle. Second candle closes inside of that candle, of that daily candle, even though it wicked below it, closed inside of it. Where did price move next to? Move to the top, right? Move back to the top side. Well, it's just, it tends to do that quite a bit. Doesn't happen all the time, happens a lot of the time. So same thing here, right? On this 3 hours and 36 minutes, what are the chances that this closes inside of that? Next candle maybe wicks up a little bit, and then ultimately there's a move down here. I think a lot of people currently are probably talking about a move like that. I know I talked about it this morning, but a move back in here into 69 to 70K wouldn't be surprising, but at least here into like 72 from a structural perspective. And then you've also got a little bit of a gap here in the volume profile. So a move down here kind of makes sense, right? And that's in line with a daily. This is in line with a daily close inside of previous day, and then coming back down to the bottom of that previous day on the subsequent daily candle, right? That's in line with that. So that would confirm. You could see that move heading down here. And then also, if we turn on the gentleman's suite, we can enable previous week. And what we'll see is that we've got the 50% of the previous week, just a little bit below that. Also would not be surprised if we see some type of move that ultimately this comes down, heads down here, somewhere around here, and then tries to find some support for a continuation to the upside. That could happen as well. Again, though, going back to my thesis at the moment, I guess, if you will, like my current read on it, is I'd prefer to see a weekly close above some of these levels as opposed to a weekly close down here, just purely from from that weekly chart and what I think it potentially opens up in terms of risk to the downside. So, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm just kind of trying to entertain both sides of this puzzle here of what might happen. If you look at some of the terminals like CoinGlass, Market Monkey, some of that stuff, they also are kind of showing something similar, which is that there's not a lot of liquidity down to about below 68 or so. 65, it's got a huge little pocket, and then to the upside, I don't think there's a lot that really below 78K or so. Everything kind of starts to build up above that. So yeah, we can pull that up here in a minute. Happy to share that view as well. I already shared that one. Cool. Going to total crypto market cap really quickly. So total crypto, I am kind of monitoring here as same thing. Like, right, we've had these big pushes, and then you get the daily close inside, and it leads to almost a full retracement of that move. Same thing here. Big green push on the daily on total crypto. Daily closes inside of it, retraces almost the entirety of that move. Again, we've had a nice big push here. In 3 hours and 33 minutes, if we get a daily close here, I think it retraces at least probably to about here. I don't think I'm including this in that retracement so far, but we'll see. On the weekly though, if this happens to close the week down here, and this is how it all adds up, right? So it starts with the daily then moves down here. Let's say the daily then moves down here, and then suddenly we're now hanging out down here in the next few days. And then you go to the weekly, and the weekly starts running out of time, and then all of a sudden this weekly candle is nothing but a wick to the upside, and then you close the week with nothing but a wick to the upside. And then you're kind of looking down here, right? So now you've got a horrible weekly close, and then you've got 1 week left on the monthly, and then this thing by then, right? Like if your daily works its way back here, and then you close the week, and then over the next week, your weekly starts to work its way, down here somewhere. Your weekly is now working its way down there. Then you're looking at the monthly, and the monthly's only got a week left, and all of a sudden this is nothing but a wick to the upside over here, right? And you're closing the week down here somewhere. Like, this stuff can start to look ugly pretty quickly. But it starts with one time frame, which then moves to the next time frame, right? So I think it takes a little bit of imagination to kind of see some of that in your mind and see it play out and be able to kind of entertain that, I guess, if you will, is probably the best way to put it. Entertain, speculate that may be a possibility, You guys following? Does that make sense though? I'm not like highly convicted of either move at this point. I don't know that I have high conviction that we're absolutely closing below 80,600 and below, these levels. Just like I don't know that I have that conviction about a close above it either. I think at this point I'm pretty open to just allowing the market do its thing. And then I'll just play it as best as I can, But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at there with BTC. But I think total is kind of showing us here what might be a little more muddy on BTC. Total's kind of illustrating that there could be some downside. Looking at stablecoin dominance, this is a mess right now, but I was just kind of trying to really dial in some levels here. I'm going to remove the fibs. You basically like at a 0.5 fib there, but same thing with stablecoin dominance. Okay. So I did a similar thing with stablecoin dominance. I marked out the high of the previous quarter, which we are above, but I marked out the high of the previous quarter. I marked out the low of the current quarter. Okay. Cause these are key areas. This quarter's low, previous quarter's high. I also marked out this quarterly swing up here. This is a very interesting swing, big move down. And then it's the one that led ultimately to, the bottom of this range. So I marked out that quarterly level there. And then I did also mark this pivot up here at the high, this short-term quarterly support up here at the high. So you had the close and then the open of the next quarter, right? So that's marked out there as well. I'm not going to mark high of the current quarter because that, we'll see that very clearly. We're going to know that that's the current high of this quarter. But I got, essentially, what is this? Q2 and Q3 of 2022. I've got right here Q2, Q3 of 2023, and then previous quarter and current quarter. Okay. So then when we zoom in, I'm now paying attention to these levels in terms of how deep realistically a pullback could be. For example, why would I really don't want to see this quarter close below this previous quarter if I want this to go higher. If I want this to go lower, then that makes sense, right? So then I'm kind of looking at, okay, I want this quarter below this quarter here. So I'm watching that. If by some chance in the next 2 weeks, this melts and we get a close below previous quarter, which was Q4 2025, that could mean there's some downside for stablecoins coming, which is good for crypto assets, right? We'll get some crypto pumps. On the other hand, if we kind of hold this swing here, we hold that on a quarterly basis, then it starts to signal something different. This could be the support, and we're going to move up here towards that other pivot on a quarterly up here, which is right near this current high as well. So I am watching that. I don't think there's a high chance that we come down and tag this quarter's low within the remainder of the current quarter. But maybe over a longer term. That was what a touch though, right? I mean, this level was this swing back here, right? You had a move down, move up, and then it crashed lower. But if you grab that on a closing basis on a quarterly, that's exactly where we're getting a bounce right now. That's this level right here. Look how close that got to that. And actually over here, you can see some touches on it. That's very interesting. Look how close that got to that level. Very, very interesting. So I'm still watching this for potential that this holds, even if there's one more leg down. Ultimately, that gets reclaimed. And then we're looking a little bit higher. Stablecoin dominance at this point has taken out all these previous lows that it was forming here in the month of Feb. So essentially, we took out Feb lows here. And oh no, I'm mistaken. Actually, I misspoke. These are Feb lows down here. So we could still go down a little bit lower before reaching February lows. So these are the lows of Feb over here for stablecoin dominance. So it could still melt a little bit more. I mean, it's not the healthiest looking pattern here in terms of, being anxious for a reversal. Definitely could still have more downside. Again, one of those fibs that I had on here was just simply grabbing this entire move here, right? And why did it not do that? Like that. Okay. And that's about a 50% move currently off of low to high. So we're at about the 50% mark, which is interesting as well. But the big zone is down below. This is like from a structural perspective, this is where you have support, weren't able to get above it here, struggle with it here. So there is a chance, there is a chance that this thing might want to keep rolling over and then maybe try and build a base there if it's going to go higher. Otherwise, rolls over, puts in a lower high somewhere and then melts down if it's going to go lower. I don't know, just kind of spitballing here. But that's what I'd be paying attention to in terms of stablecoin dominance. Nothing else really jumps out at me on stablecoin though. I just thought the monthly and the quarterly were quite interesting. Very interesting pattern here. This to me does not look like the kind of structure that is easily going to be broken to the downside, but again, could be wrong. Yeah, if this here is just putting in a lower high here, and this is some type of significant bottom like that was, even if it takes more time, like even if there's just time that needs to happen here, time based, that would be quite interesting. In that case, I'd probably be looking to draw some form of channel on that structure, and then looking for something like that, somewhere around there. Like if that were to happen, if we're topping somewhere in this region, you could have a nice little range being built here within a channel. But currently, I'd say the channel is currently moving to the upside. If I had to put one in this current price action, I'm probably drawing something like that for stable coins. So, hold on here. Let me fix the visibility of that. Visibility, hours, days, weeks. Okay. So if it were to move to the bottom of the channel, look, it could come not quite to Q1 lows of this year, but it could get close. Definitely would be below Q1 high here. Sorry, this is the Q4 of last year's high. It's right at the midpoint. It's an interesting place to be. Yeah, if it loses this and chops around there could be a chance that stablecoins want to head down here. And if that happens, then that's probably the equivalent of BTC making a move up here into the 90s, is how I'm kind of reading that. Is if that did happen, if stablecoins still need to melt down here into this kind of range high or this support, and it comes deeper without taking out this low, right? Respecting this structure. It would have to respect this structure, but it could mean that it needs to come deep over here, close to 90K, which that is that next big high time frame low volume area. There's a low volume node right at 90,000 and change, which would be quite interesting. So yeah, that could be it. You could be getting a push somewhere up here, high 80s, low 90s, if we continue to see stablecoins melt. And if not, then this will at some point continue higher. Some point finds a low, continues the impulsive trend to the upside. Makes sense. You guys are quiet today. Let me know, like, what do you guys want me to look at specifically? Anything in regards to any of the total charts, stablecoin, BTC? We can look at BTC against gold, against silver, any of that stuff. It's been a little bit since we looked at some of that. BTC against commodities has still been kind of interesting. This is BTC over GSG. Still getting a really nice bounce here in this this horizontal, right above the midpoint of the channel. Again, like this could just be a lower high type of move. Could be the Bitcoin comes up, sets a lower high, doesn't really reverse trend, and then still ultimately comes down. Something like that happened, then you'd be looking for, okay, what's my volatility range within this? And you'd be kind of trying to outline something like that potentially, where you're trying to discover, where's that next move touching down, right? In terms of if you got a rejection up here, where's that next move going to touch and hang out? So, still a little early. Definitely getting a bounce against silver though. That's a very nice bounce. Have we looked at it on the quarterly? Same thing. I mean, just like the BTC USD, if we can get this quarter close above previous quarter, I think it's got upside. So that would mean it has upside against silver. If we get that close, and if it gets a close against gold, then that would mean, let me see. Gold doesn't look as favorable as silver. It looks to me like silver's got a much better opportunity. If this thing is going to take some of this back against gold, that's a 30% move. I don't know that we see a 30% move here on Bitcoin against gold. 30% is asking quite a bit. It would need to move back to 1933. Let's mark that out actually here. I'm going to mark that out here just because that'd be quite surprising to see a move of that size. Go back to the weekly. Yeah, it seems like a lot. I mean, I'm never going to say something's impossible just because anything can happen, and I truly don't know. But a move like this, Bitcoin against gold, for it to move back up here almost 30% in the next 2 weeks seems pretty unlikely to me, unless gold is just getting ready to absolutely crash. Like gold is going to crash and BTC is going to hold up better than gold, and then this skews that ratio a little bit. It just seems very unlikely. Against let's go back to look at it against silver though. No, hold on, I haven't switched it yet. Let me go back to XAG. Why is it not loading it? Hold on here. Here we go. Against silver, I'm gonna highlight this real quick. Yeah, so silver, I mean, you're almost there. Silver seems a little bit more attainable, right? It's a 15% move to the upside. You're not asking for a whole lot. It's a pretty small move. This could happen. BTC against silver. Again, I mean, if we're talking silver, right? My bias on silver has been that sweep we got at the end of Feb that basically took the highs of the month was going to lead us down to the bottom of Feb, and that's still in play. It's taken a lot longer than I thought it was going to take, but ultimately I'm still looking down here. I still think the move is somewhere between 50 to 60 or so for silver. So this makes sense. You know, silver showing some weakness here, and you're seeing that relative to Bitcoin as well, where Bitcoin's getting a little bit of upside while silver's trending to the downside. But we're not seeing that heavily in gold, which is interesting. So gold seems to be holding up okay. Can I do Ethereum? Yeah, we'll take a look at ETH. Sure. So ETH, let's here, let me turn off some of this noise just so we can get a nice clean picture with as little noise as possible. Let's go to a quarterly. Okay. So this is Ethereum on the quarterly. I'm going to hide some of these high time frame levels. And I'm also going to remove the EMAs, might as well. Okay. So, and you can see here that I do have this labeled. Bring to the front. There we go. So I did already mark previous quarter low for Ethereum. So that is the primary level I'm going to be watching. There is the low of the previous quarter. And then let's zoom in to the monthly. Okay, so we're not quite at the top of the previous month, but let's mark that up. So this is the let's go here to text, previous month high. Okay, so that's the high of the previous month. And let's go into weekly now. Why is it doing it like that? Because of, yeah, that week. Okay. Makes sense. So that's previous month high, previous quarter low. ETH isn't far. ETH really isn't far from getting a close above those. 12.5% could be quite attainable. But same thing, it's you're running up against the time. You got 14 days, you're up against the clock. In 14 days, can Ethereum get up above here? The other risk is that you do have a weekly bar here that has not been breached. So this is not my primary framework, but I know guys who trade this, and this is what they would call a mother bar, I believe, right? So you have a trending direction on a weekly. This bar here, you'll notice that every bar has closed below, and then in here, this is nothing but a series of inside bars relative to this one, right? It's been within this previous bar here, this weekly from the beginning of Feb. So essentially, since the beginning of Feb, everything's been within that. One of the ways that they trade this, right, is they look for a breach of this. So if you've got a trend to the downside, they look for a mother bar like this. They wait for the inside candles to develop. At some point, it's going to sweep liquidity to the upside, right? Which is similar to like faking out, like it's going to move up here. But at some point, this comes up, sweeps the upside of this weekly bar, right? The one that established the range, because that's what this bar did. This bar gave us our range, gave us a range high, gave us our range low. So price eventually comes up, sweeps the top side of that, maybe even fakes out like it's gonna move up against some of these quarterly and monthly levels, and then ultimately it just comes back down, and then that's nothing but a fake out, and you're targeting the bottom of the range and lower potentially, right? That's essentially how that would work. So yeah, this is going to be interesting here for Ethereum. So if you're watching ETH, be very careful on moves above, what is this level here? 2396, call it 2400. Any move above 2400. So if we go above 2400 in the next 5 days that's remaining in this week, we go above 2400, but then we close back below that. Okay. So if in the next 5 days we go above it, and then before the 5 days and 4 hour runs out, we close the week slightly below that. Even if it's 2350, but it's below 2400. Yeah, that's probably it. And we're likely to start our move back to the downside. Even if you get one more, even if the next week still shoots up to the upside, very likely that it's just going to be a fake out. And then you're ultimately looking to come to the downside. So will be interesting to watch that one. You can see it here clearly on the 2 week as well. This is essentially your weekly range for Ethereum. High, low, everything's been inside of that. We're basically just sweeping the top side. And if we can't get closure and acceptance above here, then you're just going to get this. Same way you did here, right? Big move to upside, led down. Big move to upside, should lead to downside. So will be interesting to watch. ETH is actually pretty interesting. I'm glad you brought that up. I think it's a pretty clean chart. And then look, I had put this channel on here as well. It gives confluence, right? A lot of times, if it's going to fail, it could stick out a little bit and then ultimately fail back into the channel and come back inside. Then you're targeting lows, and you're actually targeting kind of the bottom of the channel, which is getting down to some scary numbers. But yeah, but if you get another rejection up here somewhere near the top of this channel, right? You've had touches on the bottom, had one up there. We're very close to the top of that channel once again. Definitely a key area to watch for ETH. If you're going to get closes above here, I'd suspect if you're going to get if you're going to get above here in the next 2 weeks, you're going to need like God candle type moves. You're going to need something impulsive. You're going to have to try and get through this entire low volume area here, which is going to require something impulsive. And then you're going to want to see it hang out a little bit up there before it comes down into some type of retest. You're going to want to see it hang out. Establish price acceptance above this big gap, preferably. So yeah, look, beautiful move on Ethereum, but it's not the time to be getting super bullish on ETH right here if you weren't already. If you're in from the lows, congrats. GG's. Don't forget to pay yourself. That's all I'll say. But this right here to me looks still very much intact. Especially with all these key levels that we just marked out happening to align with the upper side of that channel. I think it's pretty interesting there. Should we look at Solana really quick? We got about 10 minutes left. We'll probably try and wrap it here in like the next 5. But Solana, let's look at Sol. We'll keep it simple. We'll go to the monthly. Similar to BTC, it's right up against previous year low. Pretty important level here to see if we can flip that. If you look at Solana on a 3-month, I think the chances of Solana closing back above 116 are pretty slim in the next 2 weeks. Anything is possible, though. Anything is possible. And if Sol managed by some miracle to close this month and this quarter back above 116, then look, I mean, again, the data says that there is a potential that it may want to make a move to the upside. But you know, we got to kind of wait. We got to take it a day at a time. As far as a monthly chart, you know, previous month high, we've already got that marked out there with our gentleman's suite indicator, so we don't have to manually mark that. And that's that previous quarter low. Let's go back into weekly. So yeah, I mean, look, same thing. You have a trending direction here, right? Big candles trending clearly to the downside. This candle marked range high, range low. Everything since then has been inside of this range high and range low, so we've not breached that yet. Would not be surprising if this thing comes up here, takes out the high, but fails to close above that previous quarter low and instead gets rejection somewhere over here. This is going to likely then find acceptance back into this range, which would ultimately lead me to be looking to the bottom of this range that was established. So failure to break out to the top side is going to lead to a move to the downside. If, however, that does get above, then yeah, I think it opens up some of these levels, 160 to 200, easily looking at the January high. I don't think that's a very much to ask. So anywhere between, 150 to 160, I think starts to open up if we get a monthly close above previous quarter low. So that's my condition, which would also be a close back above these EMAs on a weekly, back up with the 21 EMA on a weekly. But that's look, guys, I'm using pretty much the same framework to look at everything because it works, and it's a very easy way to quickly identify what are the key confirmations or invalidations that I have for these charts on a higher time frame, and then I can zoom in on a lower time frame to figure out how I'm going to play that, right? If I know, so for example, and we'll kind of end with this, but if I have the suspicion and I know, I'm like, yeah, I think there's a really good chance that Ethereum is going to close above these, and then therefore we're going to be looking for a move higher. I can then start to zoom in and say, okay, well, I want to go on a 4-hour then, and I want to find how would I be willing to get in on a move, on a pullback, to maybe hedge for that potential scenario. So then I'm zooming in here and I'm looking at, okay, what's my 4-hour structure? Where would I be looking on a pullback? And then once I identify that, then I'm going into like the 15-minute or the 30-minute to try and snipe an exact entry on that, right? But it starts with these higher time frames and recognizing, okay, what are the key levels that I'm looking for? And is there even a bullish potential that is setting up? Like, is that even something I'm even entertaining at the moment? And if there's not, then I don't. So that's kind of how I'm looking at everything currently, guys, is keeping it simple, going off of quarterly and monthly closes, because we're 14 days from closing the quarter, 14 days from ending the month and closing this quarter. So it's definitely a time to be paying attention to those quarterly levels, in my opinion. With that, guys, I think we are going to wrap it up a little bit early. There's, I believe there's another show that's going to be starting. I think this is a macro one, if I'm not mistaken. I think Cade will be co-hosting this one, or hosting this one, I should say. But I think it's a macro discussion or a mining related. I can't remember exactly what it is. But I think that's coming up here, starts at the hour. So I'm going to jump off of here, give them a little bit of time to set up, test and tune whatever they got to do. But appreciate you guys, those of you that jumped on. We'll do another one of these later in the week. We always do the end of week one for sure, but I'll try and get another one of these in like on a Thursday or a Friday this week, and just kind of review like some post FOMC charts as we're heading into the weekly close. And then if Ash is available and if he's around at the end of this week, we'll probably run one of those. And if not, we'll see you guys back next Tuesday on this weekly show here. So again, shout out to Wolf Bitcoin and Ostium for allowing me to do this show and making this a possibility. Thank you guys for jumping on. Appreciate all of you that jumped on, ask questions, support, engage, everyone that retweets. That's the easiest way to support these shows, guys. Is just make sure you're coming on, give it a like, give it a repost, send it to people that you think would enjoy this type of content or are looking for this type of content. We try and keep these very educational, very low hype, not doing a lot of hype on these. It's high educational value, maybe some entertainment value, maybe at times that'll be there, but trying to keep the hype very low and just sticking to looking at these things through just an educated and stoic lens. So with that, I think we're gonna call it a wrap. Yeah, no, hey, thanks for continuing to support, Anders. Appreciate that. All right, guys. Well, with that, I'm off. Appreciate you guys. See you on the next one.